So, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chakita. I'm joined by my daughters Aakansha and Anusha today, and we are from PS University, Bangalore. And our work is about semi-supervised and unsupervised humor detection in code mixed languages, specifically Hindi and English code mixed languages. Now, we investigate the performance of different state-of-the-art methods for semi-supervised humor detection, that is text classification. We tested out different combinations of existing cross-lingual and multilingual BERT models to see which one of these, in conjunction with the GAN-BERT model, which is the state-of-the-art model for semi-supervised text classification, will give us the best result. So in case there is less availability of label data, then even semi-supervised learning would be kind of challenging. So we also investigate the performance of unsupervised classification using different methods of embedding our text. So our contributions in a nutshell are as follows. We present the most efficient methods for humor detection in Hindi-English code mix data in the absence of adequately labeled data. And we also provide baseline results for such semi-supervised and unsupervised humor detection in Hindi and English. So the motivation for working on this project is that a significant amount of content that is put out on social media is code mixed. But there is a significant lack of labeled data for the same. So a large population of countries where English is not the spoken language or the native language, tweets from those countries or social media text produced from those countries tends to be mostly code mix. And in India, it's mostly Hindi English code mix data because Hindi is the national language of India. The existing works in this domain focus mostly on supervised methods for text classification, but the state of the art models for text classification, which are transformer models and such, they require a large amount of label data in order to achieve good performance. And obtaining such label data is actually pretty time consuming and labor intensive since it involves human annotators to sit down and annotate the data. So viable solutions for this problem are to adopt a semi-supervised or an unsupervised approach to identify patterns in our data, even when a large amount of label data is not present. So in this work, we determine which models are best suited for semi-supervised and unsupervised methods of text classification for humor detection in Hindi-English data. Now over to Anusha about the related work.
Yeah, so I will be introducing some previous work in this domain. Am I audible? Um, Chakita?
Yep, you're audible.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, sure. Okay. So, firstly, there is the paper on improving sequence level classification for English Hindi code mix data by Gautam Gupta and Srivastava. And it is part of the CALCS proceedings for 2021. So this paper focuses on two sequence level classification tasks for English Hindi code mix texts, natural language inference, and sentiment analysis. The translated text was passed on to SOTA classifier for these tasks. The classifier model is also fine-tuned on English only. So the next paper I will be talking about is a simple and efficient probabilistic language model for code mix text by Ansari and others. So in this paper, a simple probabilistic approach for building efficient word embedding for code mix text was used. The dataset was prepared by searching for suitable handles on Twitter. So the data was collected from Twitter, and they mined the Hindi English code mixed tweets from Twitter. The word level annotation is carried out by human annotators. They had human, annotators annotate their data set. And then the last paper that we used as reference for our work was Humour Generation and Detection in Code Mixed Hindi English uh, by Agarwal and Narula. This was part of the RANLP 2021 proceedings. So they used methods like attention-based bidirectional LSTM and converting parts of a text on a word-to-vec embedding, and IndicBert, which you will also see in our research. So they also used these methods for detecting and generating Hindi English code mixed, sentences and data. So the next slide, please. Yeah, so from our related work, we basically see that there are similarities between the work we referenced. Mostly they use cross-lingual and multilingual models and embeddings. And most of the work used subword level representations in the embeddings. These were most effective since like most data sets contain data from social media, and they tend to have many spelling errors and irregular data. Most works in this area require large amounts of label data that require human annotation. And we've seen that in multiple papers, they brought in human annotators for their data sets. And we also noticed that existing data sets that were made from these papers were quite small since it was very labor intensive in the first place to make them. Then most papers used multilingual models such as MBERT and cross-lingual models such as XLM. And these models used required large data sets to achieve good accuracy. So here we're taking into account that these languages or this particular domain does not have a lot of data. So we propose a semi-supervised or unsupervised method for classification. So next slide, please. Yeah, so for our data set, we used Hindi English code mix tweets scraped from Twitter. It is a subset of the dataset mentioned in the paper by Kandelwal al. Made in 2018. So the creators of the original dataset used Python's Twitter scraper to build the corpus. The tweets were annotated manually. In the original paper, in the original dataset, we actually saw around 7,000 code mix tweets collected, but we took only a portion of it, and I will explain why. For semi-supervised learning, the data was divided and needs to be divided into a ratio of 1:100 for labeled versus unlabeled data. That is 46 labeled tweets and 4,616 unlabeled tweets for training, and 296 tweets for testing. So we took just enough tweets to maintain this 1:100 ratio. We also attempted to keep an even distribution of humorous versus non-humorous tweets in each of the three sections, labeled, unlabeled, and test data. So we didn't want an imbalance of more humorous versus non-humorous tweets, as that would train the models more partially towards one section if we hadn't balanced it. So for the unsupervised approach, all 4662 tweets were stripped of their labels and clustered. Once more, 296 tweets were used as the test set. So next slide, please. So here in the semi-supervised method we use, we rely heavily on the Ganbert architecture mentioned in Cross et al. In 2020. The generator component generates a set of fake samples from a given noisy distribution. The unlabeled and labeled samples are vectorized using the BERT model. The fake samples, along with vectors for the unlabeled and labeled samples, are fed in as input to the discriminator component, which then learns to classify the data as fake or as belonging to one of the labels. We substituted the standard BERT model given in the GAN-BERT architecture with multiple different specifically trained BERT models to replace the original BERT model in the GAN-BERT architecture. But we also tested with the original BERT model to see what the performance would be. Different number of epochs, batch sizes, and dropout rates were also experimented with. So next slide, please. So here we have a slight in-depth on the BERT models that we selected. So the first BERT model was INDIC-BERT. INDIC-BERT is a version of ALBERT mentioned in LAN et al. 2019. This is specifically for Indian languages. It is a multilingual language model trained on a huge corpus of some of the most popular Indian languages: Hindi, Kannada, Bengali, Tamil, Telugu, and many more. Hindi is, in specific more interest to our study. So INDIC-BERT is set to give state-of-the-art performances for multiple language tasks in regional languages. It also uses much fewer parameters compared to models like XLMR and MBERT. This also means that INDIC-BERT works faster than other models. We use INDIC-BERT under the assumption that INDIC-BERT will perform better than BERT in the case of code mixed Hindi-English data, the latter having been purely trained in English. So BERT is like purely trained in English, so it wouldn't give a great performance in this specific use case. So the next model that we talk about is Mural. Mural was assumed to be an improvement from the INDIC-BERT model as it is trained on transliterated Indian languages. So transliterated as in the script itself will not be of Indian origin or Indian scripts. So we felt that for this specific study, Mural would be a slight improvement on INDIC-BERT. Mural is also a BERT model that is trained on 17 different Indian languages. Then English-BERT, this was the third, and we also a third model that we trained on. We also chose to use fine-tuned English-BERT. These models are BERT models specifically trained on Hindi-English code mix data. So we're like driving down into very specific use cases here. These models are BERT models, and furthermore, this data was also scraped from code mix data from Twitter. The authors train and then fine-tune these models on hundreds and thousands of code mix tweets from Twitter stream. The fine-tuned English-BERT was by far our best model for classifying tweets when trained in a generative adversarial setting. Then the last model we used was the, one second, can you go back to the previous slide? Yeah, thank you. The last model we used was Hing-BERT. This was pre-trained on a corpus that is the first of its kind with 52.93 million Hindi-English code mixed sentences. Next slide, please. So our results from these training sessions was that we saw that fine-tuned English-BERT was the best performing, and it outperformed the second model by approximately 6.5 to 7%. We also observed that this model starts to overfit and perform worse after training for around 25 epochs or more. It performed its best at 20 epochs. And we also saw that the dropout rate for all of these models that we see here lie in the range of 0.09 to 0.2 to 0.7. So for fine-tuned English PERT in specific, 0.09 was the best dropout rate. Yeah, we can go to the next slide. My friend Aakansha will be taking over. Yeah.
So one more semi-supervised method that we explored was semi-supervised stochastic gradient descent. So in this particular method, we train a logistic regression classifier that uses SGD as an optimizer on the available labeled observations, that is 46 in our case. Once we obtained this partially trained classifier, what we do is we use it to predict the classes on the unlabeled samples. After this, we calculate the prediction probability for each of these labels, and out of them, we select some of the labels as pseudo labels based on a particular threshold. We later concatenate these pseudo labels with our already available label data for training a new supervised model. We repeat this process till we reach an iteration where no new pseudo labels are picked up. So, this specific method is popularly known as self training. We have used semi-supervised SGD classifier with TF-IDF embeddings and with fast text embeddings. Can we go to the next slide? So as we can see in the results here, TF-IDF embeddings gave us a better performance than fast text. This can be because of two reasons. There can be a possible overfitting in case of fast text. Also, we are aware that fast text um, vectors carry a lot of hidden information, which in this case might be unnecessary for detecting humor. And this extra information probably acts as noise, which confuses the models into recognizing wrong patterns. Can we go to the next one? So, as mentioned earlier, in this work, we primarily wanted to address the problem of scarcity of label data. That is why we also explore unsupervised methods. So in this particular technique, we convert our unlabeled dataset of 4,600 tweets to sentence embeddings and then cluster them according to different clustering algorithms. We have used combination of different embeddings with different clustering algorithms to see which combination works best. So the three embeddings that we have used are laser, fast text, and sentence transformer BERT. Laser stands for language agnostic sentence representations, and it aims to map a particular sentence to a high dimensional vector space, irrespective of which language that sentence is written in. So laser embeddings produce a 1024 dimensional vector. As we are already aware that fast text embeddings are subword level embeddings, and code mixed language corpus is riddled with spelling errors and inconsistencies. So fast text embeddings mainly help us in tackling this particular issue. Next slide. The third embeddings that we used was sentence transformer BERT English. So in this particular embeddings, we use a transformer model to generate contextualized embeddings for the code mix languages, which is English in our case. The three clustering methods that we have compared are k-means clustering, spectral clustering, and agglomerative clustering. One work that we referenced in our research was titled Unsupervised Sentiment Analysis for Code Mix Data. So in this particular work, the major conclusions that have been drawn are that laser embeddings and fast text embeddings can prove to be very effective in properly modeling code mix data, whereas cross-lingual and multilingual embeddings like MBERT and XLM don't prove to be that fruitful. That is why we chose the above three embeddings for our unsupervised clustering algorithms. Next slide. So in this particular slide, we can see that the unsupervised methods did not perform as well as our semi-supervised methods. So this can be because of the reason that humor is more of an abstract idea, and for detecting humor properly, we require models that are more customized to this task and more sophisticated. The best performing combination was laser embeddings with k-means. In spectral clustering and agglomerative clustering, fast text was the best performer. Next slide. So coming to conclusions, as we have said before in the previous work in this area, most of the approaches rely on availability of label data, and no work has been done for utilizing semi-supervised approach for humor detection in particular. So that is why in our work we have utilized semi-supervised approach by making use of SSGANs. With the unsupervised methods, we tried to choose the most um, popular embeddings for code mixed languages and also the most popular clustering algorithms. Our conclusion is that semi-supervised methods outperform largely, outperform the unsupervised methods. Mostly, our best performing model was fine-tuned English word. So, in the digital era, the amount of code mix data present on social media is going to increase, and hence we believe that this is an important research area, and we need to come up with solutions to classify and parse this kind of data. This research can be extended by replacing the BERT models with newer, more sophisticated ones, and probably making use of a more diverse label data set.